Championship leader Max Verstappen has recently been on the attack against Liberty Media and the FIA on multiple fronts, with the Dutchman taking a firm stance on two of the most pressing issues he currently sees and wants the governing bodies to resolve immediately. So what are his main concerns about the sport, and how has the FIA reacted? Watch until the end of the video to find out. Verstappen's main concern is that F1 is moving away from traditional racetracks, questioning Liberty Media's recent push for city center street races and warning against the loss of iconic circuits such as Spa-Francorchamps. As the sport's popularity grows, more venues express an interest in hosting a Grand Prix and are willing to pay the required fees. The current F1 season is set to run 22 races, with the current Concord Agreement, which expires in 2025, allowing for a maximum of 24 Grand Prix per year. In 2023, F1 will return to Las Vegas for a night racing along the famous Strip, while Qatar is also set to make a comeback at an unconfirmed venue following the Football World Cup. The Chinese GP has yet to be confirmed, but given the market's importance and once COVID-19 situation is resolved, F1 is likely to make a return to Shanghai. F1 has also involved in complicated negotiations over a South African Grand Prix at Kyalami, with no agreement yet reached. Because of the increased interest in new and returning races, European-based circuits like Paul Ricard and Spa are considered vulnerable to the chop. Verstappen finds this unpalatable and warns against the proliferation of street venues. It's sad, first of all. Spa is my favorite track and I think it is just a great track to drive. I understand that to get there compared to other tracks is probably a little more difficult sometimes with the traffic, but it's a very iconic track. I don't want to see myself in 2028 or whatever driving on street circuits close to the city just for fan engagement, because you need these kinds of iconic tracks on the calendar. Of course, I understand that everyone wants to make money, but there's also a limit to that because it's important to keep these really cool circuits on the calendar instead of just driving on street circuits. I think F1 cars are not designed for racing on street tracks anyway. F1 and its owner, Liberty Media, have tried in recent seasons to increase the number of street tracks in the championship and bring Grand Prix racing to so-called destination cities. Races have been announced for Saudi Arabia, Miami, and Las Vegas, while the Vietnamese Grand Prix was cancelled due to political and legal reasons, with no cars ever taken to the track in Hanoi. The Azerbaijan Grand Prix was also added to the calendar, though this was a deal struck during F1's previous ownership, and Baku is now a popular stop on the calendar. In addition, for 2023, F1 will move from Qatar's LOSAIL International Circuit to a purpose-built street track. It means that for full or partial street tracks, including Australia, Monaco, and Singapore, could account for just under half of all races in the near future. However, in response to any criticisms of the calendar changes, F1 CEO Stefano Domenicali has denied that the developments are damaging the sport. The Formula One boss acknowledges that money is an important factor in decisions, but emphasizes that it is not the only factor considered. "I'm not selling the soul of Formula One. This is the normal change. We're opening up to the whole world. Money is important everywhere for us too. But we don't just look at it. The whole package has to be right. If we only looked at the bank account, the racing calendar would definitely look different." As Formula One approaches conflict with itself, drivers' reactions to the expansion have been mixed. Few places are more appropriate for the glitz and glamour of Formula One than a Saturday night drag down the Las Vegas Strip. Simultaneously, F1 is, by definition, European. 14 of the 20 drivers on the grid are from the continent. Almost every team is based in the United Kingdom, and the vast majority of the season takes place in Europe, the birthplace of the sport. Belgium, France, Monaco, and Mexico are currently nearing the end of their contracts, with the first three being the most vulnerable. France appears to be the weakest link in the decisions, but a season without Belgium's Spa, one of the category's most prestigious circuits, is now a distinct possibility. A season without the Monaco Grand Prix, which is also in jeopardy, would be even more disconcerting. Monaco was previously thought to have a special status that exempted it from paying a license fee, but it has since been removed, implying that it is no longer untouchable. The organizers remain confident that it will continue to be on the calendar after 2022, but the warning signs are difficult to ignore. Domenicali warned in March that having a pedigree is no longer enough to host races. At the same time, McLaren CEO Zak Brown told Reuters that if Monaco wanted to stay on the calendar, it needed to start offering the same commercial terms as the other Grand Prix. Many consider the race on Monte Carlo's tight, winding streets to be technically unsuitable for modern F1 cars. Nonetheless, no race represents F1's glamour and prestige more than the Monaco Grand Prix. Then there is Spa, which hosted its first Grand Prix in 1925 and has held a Grand Prix every year since 1985. Other established drivers, including Sebastian Vettel and Sergio Perez, have already expressed their displeasure at the prospect of losing the Belgian GP, and Lando Norris, who is half Belgian himself, has expressed his fears about F1 prioritizing business decisions. I personally have a lot to do with Spa, of course, and I love the circuit. I went to Belgium for many years and spent a lot of time there with my family, Norris told media. I'm looking forward to experiencing the changes in the new tarmac and a new grandstand at Radion. I always look forward to Spa. It's one of the coolest circuits all season. It would be a shame to lose Spa. A lot of things these days are just about money, and that's the problem. It's a business. It's a historic race for F1, the same as Monaco. And as far as I know, they don't even pay in Monaco and it's still on the calendar. Same as Monza. So I think Spa should always be there as long as Formula 1 exists. As is customary in the case of the FIA and Liberty Media, we probably won't know until it's too late whether the beloved historic tracks will be replaced in future seasons. Many have called for the sport to move on from its roots, while equally many don't want to let go of its heritage. Another issue that Max Verstappen has raised has to do with the new regulations. F1 cars have gradually become heavier over the past few rule cycles, with the 2022 regulations resulting in a 46-kilogram increase, owing largely to new safety improvements such as the reinforced impact structures. The new generation of cars has a minimum weight of 798 kilograms without fuel, at a full fuel load of 110 kilograms, and today's cars weigh more than 900 kilograms as they line up for the start of a Grand Prix. It's a far cry from the days before the turbo hybrid era, when cars weighed between 595 kilograms in 2008 and 642 kilograms in 2013. Drivers have long been critical of the weight augmentations over the years, which has a significant impact on the handling of the cars. Verstappen, who made his debut in 2015 when cars were nearly 100 kilograms lighter than today's machines, is no exception, and he has repeatedly raised the issue. In a recent interview, the championship leader stated that the cars are now extremely heavy, but that he did not expect a quick solution because the majority of the weight gain was due to additional safety measures. I think following has been quite a bit better, so that's positive, but of course the weight of the cars, they're extremely heavy, which I think is not great, but I don't really see a quick solution for. But overall, the following and staff have been a bit better. It's difficult to expect how much better it would be, but for me, at least you have a better chance of racing. But then again, on some tracks it's still very hard to follow, but that's also a combination with tires overheating and stuff. But there are a few things to look at. One issue that has been raised is that while the increased safety requirements are the primary cause of the weight gain itself necessitates a higher level of safety. So, as things currently stand, it creates a spiral that feeds into itself, which could explain the weight gain we've seen over the years. Some of Verstappen's colleagues agree, with Aston Martin's Lance Stroll hoping that reducing weight would make the cars more agile in future regulatory cycles. I think the weight of the cars has just become too heavy, and I would like to see that be improved going forward in the coming years. There are many things for sure that we can change and do better, but off the top of my head, that's something that I think would be nice to improve, to make the cars a little bit more enjoyable and nimble to drive. But what are your thoughts? Should historic tracks like Spa and Monaco be preserved, or should the sport focus on the future rather than the past? What are your thoughts on the issues raised by Max Verstappen, and what solutions would you propose? Let us know in the comments section down below. And if you enjoyed the video, consider liking and subscribing. It helps us out a lot.